I'm super excited for this video and these shoes. I love new shoes and I love Vivobarefoot shoes in particular, and I think these are going to be the best yet. So right here in this box I have a new pair of sneakers. They're also the most expensive shoes I've ever bought and ever owned, but I think they're going to solve all of my problems. So let's get them out of the box and I'll give you the first initial impressions and how they feel on the feet and how they fit, and it might save you some money in the process, or be a pair of shoes that you might get a lot of use out of. I've got them in a size 44 euro, I think that's 10 UK. Oh my God, these look incredible. Wow. Let me give you a close-up of these bad boys. Without putting them on out of the box, they do feel heavier than any of my other Vivos that I've got, like my Primus Lites and my Primus Trail firm grounds, but that's probably to be expected because you get all of the extra features with these ones. They feel much stiffer all over, the upper feels much more rigid with this wild hide leather, and the merino wool knit feels quite thick, stiff and rigid as well. And we can talk about the pros and cons for this in a minute, but I just want to talk about the outsole as well. Again here, kind of a similar theme to the rest of the shoe. The sole itself feels much stiffer, it feels like a thicker, more robust rubber to me, and there generally seems to be a lot more of the rubber encasing when you compare it to like my Primus Lites, for example. The rubber on the sole just seems to come up on the upper a lot more than any of the Primus shoes that I've had in the past. Obviously see here it comes up a little bit more at the heel, it comes up a bit more on the sides as well, and maybe a little bit at the front as well. And being a harder, thicker rubber, you can definitely feel that, and just in the hand it feels much stiffer and a lot more robust. There's something really important here for me though, and something that I absolutely love about just looking at this sole kind of first glance, is that it should solve one of the biggest problems that I've had with the Vivobarefoot shoes for me. It's something that's been super annoying for me. So the last 3 pairs or so, I've had the outsole come away at some point, kind of peel away from the upper material, often right at the toe bend. And I've actually glued these ones back. It just, you can't quite see it, but it's peeled away here. And that seems to happen with some of my other Vivobarefoot shoes. Now let me know if you've had similar issues, but with me wearing a lot, it just seems to happen quite quickly. And at the price, it's kind of a tough one if the outsole is peeling away at the upper. It's not really ideal, but check these out. This should hopefully solve that problem, because we've got some pretty solid looking stitching the entire way around the sole and the upper. So I think they're probably glued, but I think you've also got that added stitching there. So hopefully that solves the problem entirely for me. And that might even mean that the shoes last so much longer, I can almost get double the use out of them, because the sole should stay firmly attached to the upper, which for me could be something really awesome and just, yeah, like I said, completely solve that issue. Another area that I'm excited about with the sole is these are the firm ground versions 2. These type of lugs might be on the tracker boots, but it's definitely new to me, and it looks pretty hard wearing and super grippy as well, which is going to be great for me wearing them in the gym all day on quite an abrasive floor on my feet all day. It's going to be good out at the beach, it's going to be good walking on trails, and they should be able to handle pretty much anything apart from really kind of soft ground stuff. But even then, I think they'll probably stand up pretty well, to be honest. I've actually now had a really good chance to get them on my feet and have a walk around in them, and I've worn them for about a day, just wearing them in the gym and through work and out and about and stuff, just on local walks. So I've got some really interesting insights on them, out of the box, straight onto the feet. But I want to review these in detail because, like I said, they're super expensive. So I know they aren't an easy thing to buy. So this is actually going to be a part 1 review, and then I'm actually going to review them a month from now to see how we're getting on, and then also 6 months from now, and possibly a 1 to 2 year review as well to really test that durability. So if you want to see how they're getting on a month from now, then subscribe to the channel and turn on that bell notification to get notified, so then you can get a bit better insight rather than just my initial impressions, which I think are going to be useful, very useful, but also that 1 month review will be really interesting. Now on to how they feel on the feet then. Starting with the fit, some interesting and different stuff here for me. So I actually really love how you get these on. First of all, using the pull tag, which looks super robust, and also that knitted tongue at the front. It's just really easy to get them on, and it makes it super convenient without having to worry about damaging the heel counter or anything over time. It's just super easy to get them on, and that's a really nice thing. Then once you're in, the fit just feels absolutely solid. Comparing to my other shoes, this might sound a bit weird, but it feels like my foot is firmly in contact with a lot more of the shoe here compared to my Vivobarefoot Primus Lites. Now, I think that comes down to the firmness of the entire upper, but with it still having some stretch because of the merino wool. It's such a firm and solid fit. It's almost like I wouldn't even need the laces on these shoes at all. I could just put them on, slip them on, and they would feel really good. But the laces are there and you can lock things down a little bit more if you needed to. But today, wearing them, I've barely tied them. I've just kind of put them in a loop, haven't really locked things down, and they just feel super snug. I feel like there's no slippage anywhere. They feel really solid and good on the feet. Unfortunately though, I do have one concern, and it feels like they're pinching a little bit at the toe bend. Now, this might be because the material is much harder and I'm not used to that because I'm used to the softer Vivobarefoot shoes, or they might just need wearing in a little bit more because they've got that wild hide leather. So I'm hoping over time this becomes a non-issue where my foot kind of gets used to it, and or that wild hide leather becomes a little bit more supple. That's just how it feels straight out of the box. It feels a little bit pinchy, particularly on the right foot, not so much on the left foot. If my feet are completely flat and I'm barely having to kind of walk around or bend them, like if I'm standing here in the gym, I don't really feel it. But if I'm walking quite fast, or say if I was to run in them, I can feel it pinching a bit more because obviously there's a bit more toe bend there, a bit more flex. But what about the weight? I know I did mention they feel heavy out of the box. And what about the more thick, rigid sole? Well, actually, in terms of weight, they feel light on the feet. I can't really tell much difference once they're on, but you can in the hand. So I think it's minimal, it's not very significant, but they do feel a bit more like a shoe and slightly less minimalistic than my other Vivos. But obviously still zero drop, no cushioning, and you still get that ground feel. It's probably slightly less ground feel and slightly less flexible than the Primus Lites, but you still get that proprioception with the ground. Another feature is obviously the water resistance, but I can't really talk about that yet, and we'll get to that maybe a month from now in that review video. But after wearing them for a day or so, I can definitely tell you my feet feel significantly warmer in these compared to my other shoes, which is great. I think that's really going to help me wear them and make them kind of my primary winter shoe. So in terms of first impressions then, I think I've got a really great summary here for you. There's obviously a trade-off to be had in a few areas, and I think that's the main thing. If you go for a shoe like the Primus Lite, for example, it's lighter, it's more flexible, but you get less durability with that, like I've potentially experienced. There's potentially less grip, there's less warmth, and potentially less protection. And if you go for the opposite, like a tracker boot, for example, they're gonna weigh more, they're gonna be heavier, they're gonna be more robust, you're gonna get less ground feel because the rubber's thicker, and they're gonna be less flexible and less breathable in general. But I feel like this has potentially hit the balance perfectly for me. They look like they'll be really durable, grippy, warm, protective, but not at the expense of adding too much weight or reducing flexibility and ground feel too much. Maybe a little bit less kind of breathability, flexibility, ground feel compared to Primus Lite, but you get a lot in other areas, I think, and I think it's worth sacrificing, especially for me, for that durability and the price of these shoes. I think this just makes it a much more valuable shoe potentially. I'm looking forward to see how things stand up a month from now. And again, if you're interested in that, then subscribe to the channel. It's obviously completely free. And if you like Vivobarefoot as much as I do, then tap the like button. I've noticed it's almost like we're part of a cult, really. And if you have any comments or questions on these shoes, put them down below and I'll get back to you right away. And I'll see you in a month from now.